I was driving back from dinner at my son's place when a message appeared from an unknown number. Don't forget to look around. My chest tightened with unease. Was this a threat? I typed back with shaking fingers, but the reply was unexpected. This is salvation. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and share in the comments where you are listening from. A sudden pounding on my front door broke the evening silence. 3 harsh knocks that carried urgency and anger. "Open up, I know you're—" "In there!" Jasper's voice came through, higher and strained, filled with tension. I set my coffee down, the cup striking the saucer harder than usual. My glasses slipped slightly as I walked toward the door, already sensing the storm waiting outside. The moment I turned the handle, Jasper forced his way in. His clothes were crumpled, sweat beading across his forehead, despite the cool May air. His hands shook as he pushed back his messy hair, his eyes darting around the living room like he was trapped, searching for a way out. "Dad, I need $150,000 immediately," he blurted out, almost breathless. "This is life or death." I shut the door slowly, watching my 38-year-old son pace the floor like a restless predator. His breathing was heavy, his movements sharp and unsettled. Life or death. Crossing my arms, I felt that old familiar weight of disappointment. "Jasper, how many times have I heard this? You don't understand." He spun around, face flushed with panic and anger. "These people aren't joking." The grandfather. Clock ticked steadily in the background, stretching the silence between us. I studied his tired face, the clenched jaw, the dark circles under his eyes. This wasn't just another gambling problem. This was something deeper, far more dangerous. "And I'm not joking either," I said calmly, though my heart raced. "It's time to get yourself together." Jasper slammed his fist onto the oak. Dining table. The family heirloom absorbed the blow, but his hand came back red. He winced, holding his knuckles. "You don't get it. These aren't people who wait." I sat down in my leather armchair, giving myself a clear view as Jasper continued pacing. His steps beat an uneven rhythm across the floor. "Who are they?" I asked quietly. Jasper stopped, his back to me. For a moment, only the clock and his rough breathing filled the room. Then he turned, panic still in his face but now mixed with calculation. Tony Castellano and his partner. "They run things across the south side. I borrowed to cover earlier debts." I sighed, finishing his thought for him. "And now you're in deeper than ever." "Dad, I've been saving you for 20 years, I said. "Every time you promise. It's the last." He dropped to one knee beside my chair. For a second, he almost looked like the little boy who once came to me after nightmares. But that was only an image. The eyes staring at me now were desperate, manipulative. "This time is different," he insisted. "They gave me until tomorrow night. If I don't pay—" He swallowed hard. "They showed me what happens to people who fail." His words hung heavy in the air like smoke. I searched his face for honesty beneath the fear and pressure. "Outside, a neighbor's dog barked once, then silence returned. $150,000, I repeated. "Where did it all go?" He looked away, focusing on the wall. "Poker, high-stakes games, basement clubs. I was winning for weeks. I was close to clearing. Everything. And then you lost it all," I finished. The cycle was painfully familiar. Jasper clenched his fists. "You don't know what it's like. The pressure, the strategy, the rush when the cards fall. I'm good at this. Dad, just give me one more chance." "No." The word came out firmer than I expected. "I won't do it." His expression shifted instantly. Desperation gave way to bitterness. His eyes narrowed, his voice sharp with venom. "You've always been selfish. You loved that company more than me." I stayed seated, watching this version of my son I barely recognized. The grandfather clock kept its steady rhythm, indifferent to the chaos. "I worked for you. For your future, I said. For my future? Jasper laughed, cold and bitter. He began pacing again, gestures growing more aggressive. You don't even know when my birthday is. October 15th, I replied without pause. And I remember every gift you broke or sold. The truth froze him mid-step. His face flushed deeper, shame flickering before anger took over. That's right. Throw it in my face, he shouted. Every mistake, every failure. You keep a record of them all, don't you? He stormed around the room like a whirlwind, bumping the coffee table, sending my newspaper sliding to the floor. The lamp shook. As he passed, his movements wild and uncontrolled. I keep a record of love, I said, keeping my voice steady despite the tension in the room. Every time I picked you up from the police station, every debt I cleared, every chance I gave you, I counted it as love. Love? He spun around, his eyes unsettled. You call control love. You call manipulation love. His words carried an irony that lingered between us. My son, who had just tried to sway me with threats and emotional pleas, was accusing me of the very behavior he had mastered. I shifted in my chair, the leather creaking softly. Jasper, sit down. Let's discuss this calmly. Calm? His voice broke. There's nothing calm about having people after you. Nothing calm about knowing that tomorrow night, if I don't have their money, they'll... He stopped, running his hands through his hair, making it even messier. Sweat had soaked his shirt despite the cool evening air drifting through the windows. You'll regret this, old man. The words came out low, sharp, carrying a weight that filled the room. For the first time since he entered, I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. Jasper moved toward the mantelpiece where family photos stood neatly arranged. His hand hovered before he picked up a silver-framed picture of Mabel, himself as a boy, and me. We were at Navy Pier, Mabel smiling brightly, young Jasper on my shoulders, all of us squinting in the sun. Slowly, he lifted the frame and held it at eye level. Maybe it's time you learned about real consequences. The frame slipped from his hand, or perhaps he let it go. It hit the floor with a sharp crack, glass splintering across our faces. The sound lingered unnaturally long. For a moment, we both stared at the damaged picture. Mabel's face cut through with a crack, Jasper's childhood image split into pieces. Get out, I said quietly. Jasper straightened, brushing at his wrinkled shirt. The gesture looked casual, but his hands still trembled. You'll change your mind, he said, stepping toward the door. When you realize what you've done, you'll call me. I won't. He paused at the doorway, hand on the frame. For a second, I thought he might show regret, some glimpse of the boy I'd raised. Instead, he smiled, a cold smile that never touched his eyes. We'll see. The door slammed behind him, shaking the windows. Silence pressed in after his departure. I sat still, listening to his footsteps fade, then the sound of his car driving off. Only then did I rise and approach the broken frame. Carefully, I picked up the pieces, noting how the crack divided us. Mabel on one side, Jasper and me on the other. It felt too symbolic to be an accident. The glass cut my finger as I lifted. The largest piece, a drop of blood landing on Mabel's fractured smile. Carrying the photo, I walked through the house, turning off lights Jasper had left burning. My footsteps echoed against the hardwood, each one deliberate. The house felt changed, as though his anger had left marks no one could see. My study welcomed me with its familiar order. Leather-bound books lined the shelves, brass lamps casting soft light across awards, family photographs and keepsakes. 40 years of careful work and planning surrounded me. I set the broken frame on my desk and poured 2 fingers of whiskey from the crystal decanter Mabel had gifted me on our 20th anniversary. The amber liquid caught the lamplight, and I stared into it as if answers might appear. The wingback, Chair by the fireplace embraced me like an old friend. From there, I could see everything important: photo albums, filing cabinets of documents, the desk that had carried decades of decisions. Mabel always said, "Urban, you're too soft with the boy." I spoke to the fractured photograph, her broken smile still somehow radiant. If she were alive, she would have stopped this years ago. I opened the family album, its pages whispering as I turned them. Jasper at 6, grinning beside his first bicycle. At 12, sullen in his uniform after quitting baseball mid-season. At 16, standing with the car I had bought him, the same car he wrecked 3 months later racing with friends. Each photo told the story of potential wasted, of chances offered and lost. But behind these pictures lay another set of truths. I pulled out a manila folder labeled Jasper, Financial Records, and spread the papers across the table. Bank statements, receipts, check stubs, the trail of 2 decades of support. My hands worked automatically, calculator clicking as I added it up. Car payments, insurance claims, legal fees, gambling debts. The total climbed steadily: 20,000, 50,000, 85,000, 137,000, 462,000. Enough to buy a home, start a business, or secure a retirement. Instead, it had vanished into enabling my son's choices. I sipped the whiskey, feeling the burn settle in my chest. Outside, the neighborhood grew quiet. A television laugh track floated faintly through an open window, families living ordinary lives, unaware their neighbor was tallying the cost of his son's downfall. My eyes went to our wedding photograph. Mabel and I were young, filled with hope. She had been practical, wise, always cautious about raising children. Love without limits isn't love, she once told me. It's harm disguised as affection. I thought her overly cautious back then. Now, sitting among evidence of my failures, her words felt prophetic. The fire crackled softly, shadows moving across the study. I remembered my own father, strict, but fair. He had taught me the value of work. When I wanted a bike, I earned it helping in his shop. When I wrecked his truck at 17, I paid for the repairs myself. "You made a man of me, Dad," I whispered toward the fire. What did I make of my son? The answer lay in the broken photograph, the folder of receipts, the memory of Jasper's cold smile. I closed the financial records, each page sliding back into place with quiet finality. The family album followed, heavy in my hands. Memories would remain, but the cycle they showed would end here. The grandfather clock chimed 10, its deep tones carrying through the house. Outside, the night had grown still, the wind rustling the oaks. I finished my drink and locked the manila folder in the desk drawer. The key turned with a soft click that echoed with certainty. Whatever Jasper chose to do, I would not give in. He was 38. If he was to learn responsibility, it would be now, and in the hardest way. The broken photograph caught the firelight, one last time before I turned off the lamp and headed upstairs. Hours had passed since Jasper's dramatic exit. 18 hours of restless sleep haunted by the memory of his cold smile and the sound of shattering glass. By 9 a.m., I was at Wells Tech Solutions, hoping the steady routine of profit margins and market forecasts would push aside last night's family chaos. From my corner office, the view of Lake Michigan and the clean symmetry of Chicago's skyline usually gave me comfort. Today, it felt more like a cage. My eyes lingered on the unbroken family photo on my desk, Mabel and Jasper smiling at Navy Pier. The contrast with last night's destruction made my chest tighten. The intercom buzzed, cutting through my thoughts. "Mr. Wells, your son Jasper is online too." I froze, staring at the blinking red light. 15 seconds, then 20. Finally, I put my pen down and leaned back in my chair, bracing myself. "Hello, Jasper." "Dad, I want to apologize for yesterday. I was wrong." His voice was unrecognizable, soft, almost humble. I gripped the phone harder, waiting for the catch. This is unexpected, Jasper. Violet reminded me of everything you've done for me. I let fear control me, and I said terrible things. Please, will you come to dinner tonight? Before my better judgment caught up, I had already written, Dinner, Jasper, 7 p.m. in my calendar. All right, what time? 7. And Dad? Really, I'm sorry. The line went dead, leaving me staring at the receiver. Just last night, Jasper had threatened me in my own home. Now he was asking for dinner, full of apologies. I leaned back, shadows crawling across my desk. The reports scattered there meant nothing. My mind replayed two possibilities. Either Jasper had truly changed overnight, or this was another carefully built manipulation. The hum of traffic 23 floors below reminded me that the world carried on, as usual, while my family stood on uncertain ground. I touched the photo again. Jasper's young face smiling before gambling had hardened him, before money had replaced every other language. My instincts screamed warnings, yet beneath them stirred something more dangerous, hope. 5 hours until dinner. 5 hours to decide if I was walking into reconciliation or a trap. The drive home gave me too much time to think. I drifted between radio stations, finally leaving it on classical music. By the time I reached Oak Park, doubts had turned into certainty. Jasper's sudden change was not what it seemed. At home, everything was in its usual order. My closet, Mabel's photo on the nightstand, her smile frozen in time. I adjusted my tie again and again in front of the mirror. The navy suit felt safe, respectful, but not overdone. I checked my wallet, cards, cash, ID. My phone showed a full charge. In my study, I paused by the telephone, remembering Mabel's advice. Trust, but verify. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. I called Martin. Urban, everything all right? Martin, if you don't hear from me by midnight, check Jasper's apartment. 1247 North Winchester, Unit 3B. You want to tell me why? Probably. Nothing. Just an old man's caution. Got it. Be careful, Urban. I hung up and walked through the house, checking locks and setting the alarm. On the living room table, the cracked photo from last night caught my eye. Mabel's face split by broken glass seemed to warn me again. You were right, maybe, I whispered to her. I chose the Buick instead of the Mercedes, something modest for the occasion. Sitting in the driveway, I delayed starting the engine, watching the sunset over the neighborhood. Families nearby were settling in for ordinary evenings. Meanwhile, dinner with my own son required planning like a business deal. Could Jasper really change in 18 hours? My business sense said no. My heart whispered, maybe. Wicker Park was 35 minutes away. 35 minutes to either repair a bond or step into Jasper's trap. The old brownstone on North Winchester looked tired under fading daylight. I parked across the street, noticing the contrast between this neighborhood and mine. Jasper greeted me with a firm hug. Dad, thank you for coming. It means a lot. His performance began instantly, a perfect balance of warmth and remorse. Either genuine change or a well-rehearsed act. Violet's been cooking all afternoon, he said, leading me inside. The apartment showed their struggles. Worn carpet, ring-stained coffee table, overdue bills stacked in plain view. Yet it was clean, with small touches meant to feel welcoming. Mr. Wells, Violet greeted, her smile polite but strained. I hope you're hungry. Dinner began, and Jasper played his part with precision. Dad, I've decided to quit gambling for good. I know how much pain I caused. I want to fix it. That's good to hear, son. What made you decide? Seeing you yesterday, realizing what I've done. Violet helped me see I was destroying everything. Her phone buzzed. She excused herself, looking pale. Everything okay, Violet? Just work, she said quickly. Her laugh was too sharp, too quick. Meanwhile, Jasper filled silences with polished stories of change, asking about my health, my business, old family trips. His words didn't match his eyes. Violet returned, but her unease was impossible to miss. She dropped her fork, spilled water, jumped each time her phone buzzed. When she slipped away to the kitchen, I caught her whispering. "She's been stressed about work," Jasper explained, jaw tightening. The apartment told its own truth. Poker chips in a drawer, empty bottles by the door, a canceled gym notice on the counter. Still, Violet had worked hard on dinner, and I thanked her sincerely. She twisted her wedding ring nervously, her face tense. Then suddenly, "Mr. Wells, what do you do when someone you care about is in real danger?" Jasper froze. "Fork in mid-air. That's a strange question," he said. Violet quickly covered. "Oh, I was just thinking about that news story, the missing businessman." But her eyes met mine for an instant, and in that look, I saw something that chilled me. Genuine fear lingered in Violet's eyes, paired with a desperate attempt to express something she could not say out loud. I finished my wine, setting the glass down with finality. "Thank you both for a pleasant evening. I should be heading home." As I rose from my seat, a heavy certainty filled my chest. Something was deeply wrong, and Violet knew more than she admitted. The cool May night surrounded me like an old comfort as I stepped down from Jasper's building. My weather app had read 55 degrees earlier, ideal for the 45-minute walk home through Chicago's winding streets. I welcomed the time to process what I had witnessed during that strange dinner. Wicker Park's lively Tuesday night energy contrasted sharply with Jasper's cramped apartment and Violet's nervous behavior. Couples strolled from cocktail bars. Young professionals enjoyed late dinners on patios, and the city seemed alive with possibilities. This was the Chicago my son might have thrived in, had he chosen differently. Pulling my jacket tighter, I began the familiar route toward Oak Park, my mind sorting through the evening's troubling details. Violet constantly checked her phone. Jasper recited polished redemption stories. A glimpse of poker chips in their kitchen drawer caught my eye. 4 decades in business had sharpened my instincts, and they told me something serious was wrong. The commercial district faded into quiet neighborhoods. Pools of yellow light from scattered street lamps broke long stretches of darkness. I passed a 24-hour diner where night workers sipped coffee, a closed bookstore with signs for poetry readings, and empty bus stops awaiting tomorrow's commuters. At 9:47 p.m., 17 minutes into my walk, my phone vibrated. Beneath a bright streetlight, I saw an unknown number flash across the screen. "Don't forget to look around you." I read the message twice before replying, "Is this a threat?" The response came immediately. "This is rescue." Probably a prank, I thought. Still, I called the number back only to hear, "The number you have dialed is not in service." Experience had taught me to record everything, so I took screenshots before slipping the phone into my pocket, close enough to reach quickly. The atmosphere shifted. Sounds grew sharper. My footsteps on the pavement, the hum of distant traffic, even a dog barking in the dark, all seemed amplified. I kept glancing behind me, telling myself it was paranoia fueled by family drama and strange texts. Then I saw the car. A black sedan followed me, moving slower than necessary, maintaining distance for 3 blocks. When I crossed the street, it crossed. When I turned down a side road, its headlights followed, cutting through the night like watchful eyes. My pulse quickened. Mabel's voice echoed in my memory. "Trust your instincts, Urban. They've kept you alive in business. They'll keep you alive everywhere else." The sedan crept closer, its engine low and steady. 2 silhouettes sat in front, their faces hidden by tinted windows. My steps quickened, instincts from childhood games returning as survival tools. Ahead stretched dim residential streets, a stark contrast to Wicker Park's brightness. Here, I was alone with whatever intent followed behind me. I turned again, shoes striking the pavement faster now. The car's turn signal blinked, then followed me into the shadows. This was no coincidence. I was being targeted. The sedan accelerated. I pushed myself into a near run. At 65, running was not my strength anymore, but urgency pushed my body past its limits. Then came the sound. Car doors slamming shut. "Stop, old man. We just need to talk." The voice carried authority mixed with irritation, like a teacher addressing a disobedient student. But this was no classroom, and the tone suggested trouble. "Police, help!" I shouted. But the quiet neighborhood stayed dark. Lights stayed off, windows closed. On a Tuesday night, most people were asleep, preparing for work the next day. "Shut up and get him!" Another voice ordered, sharper, younger, more aggressive. Heavy footsteps echoed behind me, drawing closer. I ducked into an alley, weaving between parked cars and garbage bins to slow my pursuers. My chest tightened as adrenaline mixed with exertion, the exact stress my doctor had warned against. Yet stopping was not an option. The alley opened onto a darker industrial street, lined with loading docks and warehouses. I pressed against a brick wall, heart pounding, hoping the shadows concealed me. Where did that old guy go? He can't be far. Split up. Left side, right side. Their coordinated voices confirmed my fear. These were not random criminals, but professionals carrying out a planned pursuit. The realization sent a chill through me. I found refuge in an old storage shed hidden behind a row of shuttered shops. Its door hung slightly open, likely left that way by the last worker. With my pursuers' voices closing in, I dashed across the open lot, lungs burning as I whispered, "What do you want from me?" Though they were already too far to hear. She'd reeked of oil, aged wood, and decades of dust. Garden tools lined the walls, paint cans stacked in corners, and wooden crates offered cover for anyone desperate to disappear. I crouched behind the tallest pile, forcing my breathing quiet while my heartbeat pounded wildly. Through the grimy windows, flashlight beams swept the alley. They had come prepared. This wasn't chance. Someone had mapped my routine and calculated where I'd be. The door groaned as one of them pushed against it. I pressed myself deeper into the shadows, dust floating in the thin ray of light piercing my hiding place, my nose itching with the urge to sneeze. Check inside. Nah, it's locked. Old man's probably halfway to Oak Park by now. Their footsteps faded, but I stayed frozen. Mabel had always said patience was my greatest strength. Tonight, it might keep me alive. Car doors slammed, engines rumbled, but I waited 15 more minutes before daring to breathe normally. This wasn't a random attack. Someone had sent them for me. Still crouched in the musty dark, I tried to steady myself. My chest remained tight, a reminder of both fear and age. The flashlights returned, sweeping with slow precision. Where did the old guy go? One asked, irritation sharp in his voice. Maybe he's hiding. Hard to see out here, replied another, younger, less certain. I shifted carefully, but a paint can scraped faintly against my elbow. The beams froze, silence stretching for half. A minute that felt endless. Jasper won't pay us if we fail. We need to find him. The name hit me like a blow. Jasper, my own son. The boy I had raised, carried through illness, forgiven for countless mistakes. He had hired these men. The dinner, the apologies, Violet's anxious glances, everything had been staged to corner me. Forget it. He's already scared. We'll try again tomorrow. I covered my mouth, fighting to contain the shock of my son's betrayal. Every instinct urged me to confront it, to demand an answer, but their casual talk of fear as a paid service chilled me more than the chase itself. Engines roared to life, tires crunching gravel as they drove off. Still, I waited 15 more minutes before moving. My mind struggled with the truth. Jasper, the child Mabel once soothed, the boy who had once clung to me in nightmares, was now a threat. When I finally stepped out, The alley no longer looked familiar. It had turned into a battlefield where family ties were twisted into weapons. The night air carried the scent of coming rain while the city went on, indifferent. Violet's warning message made sense now. She had known and risked herself to warn me. Her husband's scheme was hidden behind the mask of family concern, but she had chosen honesty over safety. I knew I had to contact Martin, involve the police, and record everything before Jasper erased the evidence. But first, I needed safety. A public place. The neon lights of a 24-hour diner glowed ahead, offering witnesses and sanctuary. As I walked toward it, I realized Jasper had achieved only one thing. He had frightened me, but not in the way he intended. Inside the fluorescent-lit convenience store, my trembling hands dropped coins twice before I managed to dial 911. The clerk behind the bulletproof glass eyed me with casual concern, perhaps assuming I was just another drunk. "Nalan, what's your emergency? I need to report an attempted assault. 2 men chased me near Wicker Park. I'd like to speak with Detective Martin Reyes, District 18. Are you injured, sir? Do you need medical help? No, I'm safe. But Detective Reyes is expecting my call. Tell him Urban Wells." 20 minutes later, Martin's patrol car pulled into the lot, headlights sweeping across the pavement. Through the window, I saw him approach, tall, steady, with the calm look of a man who had faced enough late-night emergencies to stay composed. In any situation. "Urban," he said, as he came closer, noticing my torn jacket and unkempt appearance. "What happened to you?" Relief washed over me at the sight of a familiar face, someone trained to handle crises beyond my business experience. "Martin, I think my son wants to kill me." We sat in his patrol car as I shared every detail I remembered: the dinner invitation, Violet's nervous manner, the warning text, and the black sedan that chased me through Chicago's dark streets. Martin wrote everything down carefully, asking specific questions about times, locations, and appearances. "You said one of them mentioned Jasper by name? Jasper won't pay us for nothing. We need to find him." I repeated the words exactly as I had heard them. "They were hired, Martin. My own son paid criminals to terrorize me." Before my phone battery died, Martin photographed the threatening messages. "We'll need you to come to the station to make a formal statement. Can you describe the car more clearly?" Black sedan, likely a Toyota Camry, Illinois plates, though I only caught part of the number. Small dent on the passenger side, tinted windows, 2 men, both in their 30s. Within minutes, Martin issued a BOLO alert. His methodical efficiency stood in sharp contrast to the chaos I had endured only hours earlier. Here was order, law, and structured response against deliberate crime. At District 18, the station was alive with late-night activity. Radios buzzing, phones ringing, officers processing paperwork with precision, knowing details carried weight in court. "Urban, that's a serious accusation. Are you sure about what you heard?" I met his gaze firmly. One of them used Jasper's name. They were working for him. Martin's expression grew firm. "We'll find them. Your description of the car is strong enough to work with." I signed my statement, recounting every moment from dinner to discovery, while Martin coordinated patrols to locate the sedan. The business side of me respected the systematic process: evidence, witness accounts, coordination between units. Yet beneath the calm procedure, anger burned at the deliberate betrayal of my own son. My phone, now charging with Martin's help, buzzed with an update. "Detective Reyes, we have a vehicle matching the description outside an apartment in Pilsen." Martin grabbed his jacket, focus sharp. "Urban, we may have found them." Through District 18's windows, I watched backup units move across Chicago's early morning streets toward the apartment where the suspects likely waited, unaware their success was short-lived. Unit 47 confirmed the plate matches the witness. Description: confirmed, Detective. Illinois Delta Charlie 7219. Car is cold. Suspects likely inside. The arrest took under 30 minutes. Tony Marchetti, 32, and Vince Rodriguez, 29, were taken into custody without resistance. Both had prior records for intimidation and assault. Classic hired muscle, tied to gambling circles Jasper would have known. Martin separated them for questioning, using standard interrogation techniques I'd only seen on television. Tony gave, in first, likely calculating that cooperation could reduce his sentence. Urban, we got them, and we have a confession. I set down the cold coffee in my hands. What did they say? Listen, this Jasper Wells paid us $5,000 to scare the old man, Martin read from his notes, his voice edged with professional disgust. Half up front, half after. They were told to make it look like a random crime. Scare, I said. They wanted to kill me. Martin's face grew darker. There's more. Jasper told them you had a heart condition. Fear alone could have ended your life without them touching you. The words hit me hard. I sat heavily in the plastic chair, feeling every one of my 65 years. My son hadn't just hired men to threaten me. He had turned my own health into a weapon, using confidential medical information to design what would seem like a natural death. He knew, I whispered. I told him last Christmas my doctor was monitoring irregular rhythms. Tony's phone has texts arranging the job. Bank records will confirm Jasper's payment. We have enough to charge him with solicitation of assault, possibly attempted. Murder. Vince backed Tony's story, both men admitting they had met Jasper at a nearby coffee shop where he gave them my photo, address, and instructions. The plan was simple. Terrify me enough to trigger a heart attack, leaving no sign of direct violence. Evidence stacked quickly. Texts, surveillance footage, bank transfers. Jasper had been careful, but not careful enough to erase the trail. He's home now, Martin said, preparing the warrant. Probably asleep, thinking the plan succeeded. I asked to be present at the arrest. Martin agreed only on the condition that I remain in a police vehicle, safely out of harm's way. Some part of me needed to see my son's expression when he realized that his carefully planned crime had become evidence in his own trial. Martin, I need to understand something, I said, looking at the confession laid across his desk. How long does someone spend in prison for trying to kill his father? For gambling debts and with testimony about financial motives? 15 to 20 years at least, Martin replied. This isn't a crime of passion. It's premeditated, attempted murder. As Martin and his team prepared for Jasper's arrest, I stayed behind in the station, surrounded by the constant sounds of justice processing another crime. My son, the child I once held while he slept, had calculated the exact level of fear needed to stop my heart. The weight of that betrayal settled over me like ice. Dawn crept through the police station windows as I dozed in a chair Martin had moved to a quiet corner of the bullpen. The coffee on the desk had gone cold, but the mix of caffeine and adrenaline kept me awake. At exactly 8, Martin returned with fresh coffee and news that would close this chapter of my life. Jasper's in custody. Arrested at home at 6:30 this morning. No resistance. I straightened, muscles aching from the long night. How did he react? Shock at first. He denied everything until we showed him Tony's confession and the bank records. Then he broke down. He admitted it all. Martin began organizing paperwork with professional calm as my phone buzzed with a new message. It came from the unknown number that had once saved my life. I had nearly forgotten that warning amid the arrests and confessions. I typed, "Thank you for saving my life." "Who are you?" The reply came quickly. "I'm Violet." I couldn't let him do this. "You're a good person." Relief filled me, followed by questions. Why didn't you stop him sooner? I was afraid, but when I realized he truly meant it, I had to act. "I'm sorry." Through later messages, Violet explained she had discovered Jasper's plan the day before our dinner. She struggled between loyalty to her husband and basic human decency, finally buying a burner phone to send the anonymous warning. She was already filing for divorce and had agreed to testify against Jasper in exchange for immunity. "She saved your life," Martin said, glancing at my screen. That warning gave you the awareness you needed. The legal process will be straightforward. Jasper faces charges of solicitation of assault and attempted murder. Tony and Vince will likely take plea deals. With confessions, bank records, and texts, the case is strong. I want to see him, I told Martin one last time. The meeting happened in an interview room. Jasper sat in an orange prison uniform, his hands cuffed to the table. He looked smaller, weaker than I had ever seen him. The manipulative man from Monday night was gone, replaced by someone broken by his own choices. Dad, I was desperate. Those people, you made your choice, I interrupted, keeping my voice steady. I gave you everything, and you tried to take more by ending my life. It wasn't supposed to be murder, just enough to stop my heart, using the trust I gave you. I stood. You're no longer my son. Later that morning, back home with a police escort, I called my lawyer to begin changing my will. Jasper's name would be removed. His share would go to charities and a trust for Violet. She had shown more courage in one text message than Jasper had in 38 years. In my study, surrounded by family photographs, I thought of Mabel's wisdom. She had seen Jasper's nature more clearly than I ever did and warned me about enabling his destructive behavior. If she had been alive, she would have stopped this years ago. The broken family photo from Monday night still sat on my desk, its cracked glass scattering the morning sunlight. I placed it in the trash, along with any illusions about the son I thought I was protecting. Justice would now follow its course. Jasper would serve his sentence. Tony and Vince would face their consequences. And Violet could begin a new life, free from the harm that had nearly destroyed us all. For the first time in years, I could plan a future without waiting for Jasper's next crisis. Wells Tech Solutions would continue under new leadership. My wealth would support causes that mattered, and I could finally live without watching for the next betrayal. Sometimes, removing toxic people, even family, is the only way to find peace. If you appreciated this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click the box on the left. Thank you for watching.